Hello, everyone. Tonight we're going to step into a conversation that most people avoid. How social media has turned from a tool of connection into a trap of validation. Look around you right now. Chances are the phone in your hand holds more of your attention than the people sitting around you. You scroll, you refresh, you wait for a red heart or a thumbs up, and for a split second, it feels like oxygen. But here's the reality check. If your sense of worth depends on likes, you're already suffocating. In fact, if society collapsed tomorrow, you could post 100 pictures, and you might not survive a single day in the real world. Because this is serious, let me pause. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you truly enjoy what I'm doing here. And I want you to write in the comments your location, your time zone, right now, tonight. Now turn off the lights, maybe switch on a fan for some soft white noise, and let's begin our journey tonight. Let's be brutally honest. The younger you are, the more you've been conditioned to equate approval with existence. A picture without likes feels invisible. A post without comments feels like failure. But here's the truth. This invisible scoreboard you check every day is not life. It's not progress. It's not growth. It's an endless hamster wheel that keeps you running while you go absolutely nowhere. Think about it. The most successful people you admire didn't rise by chasing validation. They weren't refreshing feeds to see if strangers approved of their choices. They were too busy working, building, failing, and learning. Social media can amplify success, but it can never replace the hard, unglamorous process of becoming someone worth listening to in the first place. Let me tell you a story. A young man I knew in his early 20s was obsessed with documenting his life online. Every meal, every workout, every coffee shop study session was photographed, filtered, and posted. His followers cheered him on, but when you looked closer, there was nothing behind the curtain. He wasn't actually mastering his craft, wasn't pushing his career forward, wasn't building discipline. Years later, most of his followers had moved on, but he was still stuck, scrolling for approval, with nothing real to show for it. Now compare that with another young man who did the opposite. He went quiet. He stopped posting every minor detail of his life and started investing his hours into learning skills, building his body, saving money, and crafting a career. He wasn't visible online, but offline. He was stacking bricks for his future. A few years later, he reappeared, not with selfies and hashtags, but with undeniable proof, a thriving business, a strong physique, and financial independence. He didn't need likes. His life itself was the validation. That's the lesson. Likes are not currency, results are. You cannot cash in validation for rent, for respect, or for fulfillment. And yet, millions of people spend more energy curating an online image than building an actual life. They want to look successful instead of being successful. But the moment life tests them with a real challenge, a financial hit, or a personal crisis, the illusion crumbles. Some of you might say, but social media is how people get opportunities today. And yes, that's partially true. Exposure can open doors. But here's the trap. Exposure without substance collapses. Imagine you blow up online for something trendy, but you haven't built discipline, skills, or real foundations. The audience leaves as fast as it arrived, and you're left emptier than before. On the other hand, if you build yourself into someone with undeniable value, social media becomes a megaphone instead of a mask. This isn't about deleting your accounts and disappearing from the world. It's about flipping the relationship. Instead of you serving the algorithm, make the algorithm serve you. Use it intentionally to share what you've built, to connect with meaningful people, to spread ideas that reflect real work, but never confuse visibility with value. One is a spotlight, the other is substance. So what should you do? Start with a simple test. For the next 7 days, post less and produce more. Instead of chasing likes, chase mastery. Instead of scrolling endlessly, set a timer and cut your usage in half. Take those saved hours and pour them into learning, building, or strengthening your body. Track the difference you feel, not in your notifications, but in your confidence. Because here's the final truth. If you live for likes, you will die invisible. But if you live for growth, for mastery, for discipline, likes will come as a side effect. And even if they don't, you won't care. You'll be too busy becoming someone worth respecting. So ask yourself tonight, if the internet shut down tomorrow, would you still have proof of who you are? Or would your identity vanish with the feed? Curiosity builds, ignorance destroys. Those words may sound dramatic, but nothing separates winners from the forgotten faster than this simple divide. Think about it. The people who rise in their 20s aren't necessarily the smartest or the luckiest. They're the ones who never stopped asking questions. Meanwhile, the ones who sink are often those who thought they already knew enough. That is the silent killer. The arrogance of assuming you've learned all you need before life has even begun testing you. Curiosity is fuel. It's what makes you lean forward when the world tells you to sit still. It's the spark that keeps you hungry when others are content. Without it, you drift. And drifting in your 20s is like tying an anchor to your own future. Every year wasted in ignorance compounds into decades of mediocrity. Let me share a quick story. A young man, bright but lazy, coasted through college believing his degree would guarantee him success. He treated learning as something to finish, not something to live. When he stepped into the real world, he realized knowledge had already moved on without him. The tools he learned were outdated, the theories irrelevant, the world faster than his pace. His ignorance didn't just embarrass him. It locked him out of opportunities he wasn't prepared to even recognize. Now compare that with another person I once knew. A young woman who attacked life with relentless curiosity. She wasn't the top of her class, but she was always the first to raise her hand, to research late into the night, to ask questions that others thought were silly. Her curiosity opened doors. Mentors noticed her, bosses trusted her, peers respected her. By 28, she wasn't just employed. She was leading because she had built a foundation of constant learning that ignorance could never destroy. Here's the truth most young people ignore. Ignorance isn't neutral. It doesn't just mean you don't know. It actively robs you of opportunities, blinds you to options, and keeps you trapped. The world doesn't slow down for your lack of awareness. It passes you by. And once it does, catching up feels like sprinting uphill with weights on your back. Maybe you're thinking, But I don't like reading. I don't like studying. That's the excuse ignorance whispers. Learning doesn't have to be locked inside dusty textbooks. Curiosity can mean podcasts on your commute, conversations with people outside your bubble, experimenting with new skills, even failing and asking, what can I learn from this? Knowledge today is everywhere. On your phone, in your earphones, in the free libraries of the internet. Ignorance, then, is no longer an accident, it's a choice. Curiosity, on the other hand, is a weapon. It sharpens your mind against complacency. It forces you to see opportunities others overlook. It's the reason some people step into rooms they're not qualified for and still walk out with respect, because they're willing to learn faster than anyone else. Ignorance says, "That's not for me." Curiosity asks, "Why not me?" So let's get practical. How do you build curiosity into your daily life? Start with this. Every day, write down one question you don't know the answer to and commit to finding it. It could be about your career, your health, your money, your craft. By the end of a year, that's 365 new answers, each one a brick in the foundation of your future. Next, replace 1 hour of passive scrolling with 1 hour of active learning. An audiobook, a skill tutorial, a conversation with someone smarter than you. Track the difference in 6 months, and you'll realize how much ignorance you've already destroyed. Let me anticipate your resistance. But what if I ask stupid questions? That fear is the poison that keeps people ignorant. Every master once asked foolish questions. Every leader once felt dumb in front of someone wiser. The difference is, they asked anyway. Ignorance pretends to protect your pride but leaves you weak. Curiosity risks embarrassment but builds strength. You have to choose. Curiosity builds, ignorance destroys. If you let curiosity guide your 20s, you'll collect tools, mentors, and wisdom that will serve you for decades. If you let ignorance take root, you'll hit 30 with nothing but regrets about what you never bothered to learn. So ask yourself now, when was the last time you were truly curious, not scrolling for entertainment, but digging for understanding? And more importantly, what could your life look like in 5 years if you made curiosity your daily fuel starting tonight? Most people are terrified of being alone. They fill every silence with noise, every gap with distraction, every lonely moment with a screen. But solitude is not your enemy. It is your weapon. The courage to be alone is one of the most underrated strengths you can build before 30, because it is in solitude that you finally hear the one voice that matters, your own. Think about it. The world trains you to crave constant company, constant input, constant feedback. If you're not texting, you're scrolling. If you're not at a party, you're online pretending you are. Yet the truth is simple. If you cannot stand alone, you cannot stand at all. The man or woman who avoids solitude is really avoiding themselves. I once knew a young guy who couldn't bear silence. The moment he was home alone, he turned on music, called a friend, or posted something just to see if anyone would respond. He feared being alone with his own thoughts, because deep down, he knew he hadn't built anything solid inside himself. And because of that, he never made progress. He lived as a permanent echo of the crowd. Now let me tell you about another man. He wasn't flashy. He didn't post much, and people sometimes thought he was antisocial. But what he was really doing was training in silence. While others filled their weekends with distractions, he sat down with books, mapped his goals, worked on his weaknesses, and reflected on his mistakes. By the time he reached 30, he wasn't just successful, he was unshakable. Solitude had forged him into someone who didn't need noise to feel whole. Here's what people miss. Being alone is not loneliness. Loneliness is emptiness. Solitude is fullness. Loneliness is waiting for someone to fill your time. Solitude is filling your own time with purpose. One weakens you, the other strengthens you. The courage to be alone is the courage to stop outsourcing your identity and start building it yourself. Of course, some of you might argue, but humans are social creatures. We're meant to connect. True. But connection without self-awareness is dependency, not strength. If you don't know who you are alone, you'll lose yourself in every group you join, every relationship you enter, every trend you follow. To give something real to others, you must first build something real within. So how do you practice solitude in a world that never shuts up? Start small. Spend 30 minutes a day without music, without scrolling, without anyone else's voice in your ear. Write down your thoughts. Reflect on your goals. Sit with discomfort instead of running from it. At first it feels unbearable, but soon you'll realize it's the most honest mirror you've ever faced. Another step, replace a night out with a night in. Not wasted, but invested. Read, train, plan, or simply think. The world rewards those who can focus deeply, and solitude is the training ground for that focus. It sharpens your discipline, strengthens your clarity, and forces you to face the raw truth of who you are. And yes, people will misunderstand. They'll say you're boring, antisocial, maybe even weird. But remember, the crowd mocks what it doesn't understand. 10 years from now, those same people will wonder how you built such strength while they're still dependent on the next distraction. The courage to be alone is really the courage to grow. Growth rarely happens in the spotlight. It happens in the quiet hours nobody sees. If you learn to master solitude before 30, you'll build an inner fortress that no rejection, no failure, and no chaos can destroy. So let me leave you with this. If all the noise disappeared tonight, no friends, no social media, no constant chatter, would you still feel whole? Or would you realize you've been hiding from yourself all along? The world is moving faster than ever. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you can't learn faster than the world changes, you'll be left behind. The gap between yesterday's knowledge and tomorrow's relevance is shrinking, and those who cling to what they already know are quietly preparing their own failure. Think about how quickly technology evolves. What was cutting edge 5 years ago is irrelevant today. Jobs that once seemed stable vanish overnight, while entirely new industries appear in a matter of months. The difference between those who thrive and those who collapse is not brilliance or luck. It's learning speed. Can you adapt? Can you reskill? Can you process change and turn it into opportunity before others even notice? Let me tell you about two friends who graduated at the same time. The first landed a safe job, felt comfortable, and stopped learning. He told himself, "I'm set." For the first few years, it looked true. But as his company adopted new tools and his role demanded new skills, he fell behind. He resisted, clung to the old ways, and eventually was replaced by someone younger and hungrier. His stability was an illusion. The second friend took a different approach. He treated learning as survival. Even after graduation, he read daily, took online courses, sought mentors, experimented with side projects. When the industry shifted, he was ready, not because he predicted the exact changes, but because he had built the habit of adapting. While his friend was outdated, he was in demand. The market rewarded his learning speed with promotions, opportunities, and freedom. That's the real game. Knowledge compounds like money, and ignorance decays like rust. If you want to thrive before 30, you can't wait for someone to train you. You must train yourself faster than the world demands. Now, you might argue, but I don't have time to learn. Let me challenge that. You have time. You just waste it. Hours vanish on social media, video games, and mindless shows. If you redirected even half of that into skills, languages, coding, communication, investing, you'd be unrecognizable in a year. Ignorance isn't about lacking resources anymore. It's about lacking discipline. Here's the method. Build a system of daily micro-learning. 20 minutes of reading before bed, a podcast during your commute, a course instead of another binge-watched series. Stack these hours, and they add up to hundreds of hours a year. That's the edge. While others stagnate, you evolve. But let me also prepare you for resistance. People will call you obsessed, intense, maybe even too serious. They'll try to drag you back into their comfort zone because your growth makes their stagnation obvious. Ignore them. Comfort is their religion. Progress is yours. And if you let their pace set your own, you'll inherit their results, mediocrity and regret. The truth is simple. The world will not slow down for you. Technology won't pause, industries won't wait, and opportunities won't stop knocking just because you're not ready. If you refuse to learn faster, you choose to fall behind. So here's your challenge. For the next 30 days, commit to replacing 1 hour of entertainment with 1 hour of growth. Pick a skill relevant to your future, dive deep, and track your progress. In a month, you'll see a shift. In a year, you'll be ahead. In 5 years, you'll be untouchable. Let me end with this question. When the world changes again tomorrow, and it will you be ready to adapt? Or will you watch opportunity pass you by, wishing you had started learning sooner? Trends are seductive. They sparkle. They move fast. They make you feel like you're part of something. But here's the harsh truth. Chasing trends is the fastest way to build a weak foundation. Foundations don't trend. They don't get likes. They don't feel exciting in the moment, but they are the only things that last. Look at how many young people rush to copy the newest fad, whether it's a business hack, a fitness shortcut, or the latest social media wave. For a moment, it works. They look cool, relevant, ahead of the curve. But the trend dies, and with it, their momentum. Suddenly, they're scrambling for the next shiny thing, never realizing that years are passing without them building anything real. I once met a guy who jumped from idea to idea, dropshipping 1 year, crypto the next, influencer marketing after that. Every time he bragged about being early to the next big thing. But when those waves crashed, he had nothing to show for it. No skills, no discipline, no structure. He was addicted to being trendy, but allergic to doing the slow, boring work of building a foundation. Contrast that with another young man I knew. He ignored the noise. While his friends chased every fad, he focused on fundamentals: communication, financial literacy, health, discipline. He wasn't the most exciting person in the group, but he was solid. A decade later, when trends came and went, he was standing on concrete while everyone else was sinking in sand. That's the difference. Chasing trends feels like speed, but it's just movement without direction. Building foundations feels slow, but it's progress that compounds. And the sooner you learn this before 30, the more powerful your 30s, 40s, and beyond will be. Some of you might argue, but what if I miss a big opportunity? Here's the reality. Opportunities are never lost to those who have strong foundations. In fact, the better your foundation, the more you can capitalize on any trend that does matter. Think about it. Someone with financial discipline can take advantage of a market boom. Someone with strong communication skills can adapt to any new industry. But if you lack those basics, even the best opportunity will slip through your fingers. So what are the foundations worth building now? Start with these. Health. A strong body and clear mind are the base of every achievement. Discipline. The ability to do the work whether you feel like it or not. Communication. Writing and speaking with clarity open more doors than technical skills alone. Financial literacy. Understanding money before 30 prevents decades of financial slavery. Character, integrity, responsibility, and resilience make you someone people can trust. If you master these, no trend can derail you. In fact, you'll be able to ride trends strategically without being consumed by them. Here's your action step. Audit your life right now. Ask yourself, am I stacking bricks or chasing glitter? Be brutally honest. If your time and energy are going mostly into trends, pull back. Redirect that energy into building one foundational skill. Stay consistent for a year. By the time another trend rises and falls, you'll have something that cannot be taken away. Because here's the truth. The world respects builders, not bandwagon riders. Chasing trends makes you replaceable. Building foundations makes you unshakable. So ask yourself tonight, 10 years from now, do you want to be remembered as someone who was always in but never built anything? Or as someone who stood firm while the world chased shadows around you? They say money is wealth, but here's the truth. Health is the first wealth. Before 30, most people burn their bodies for short-term pleasure. Junk food, late nights, endless drinks, and hours slouched over screens. They laugh it off, believing youth is a shield. But the body keeps score, and every careless choice compounds into a debt you'll have to pay with interest later. Think about it. You can be the smartest in the room, the hardest worker, even the richest. But if your health collapses, everything else collapses with it. What's the point of success if you're too tired, sick, or broken to enjoy it? A weak body sabotages strong ambitions, and yet many young people act as if they can buy health later, like it's a product waiting on a shelf. It's not. Health is earned daily or lost daily. I knew a man in his 20s who was brilliant, full of ideas, and hungry for success. But he neglected his health, ate garbage, barely slept, never moved his body. By 30, his energy was gone, his mind foggy, his ambition dulled. He had chained himself before the race even began. His dreams didn't die because he lacked talent. They died because his body couldn't carry them. Now compare him to another man I knew. He wasn't extraordinary in intelligence, but he respected his body early. He trained consistently, ate with discipline, and treated sleep like fuel instead of a luxury. By 30, he wasn't just healthy, he was unstoppable. His body amplified his mind, his energy fueled his work, and his resilience carried him through stress that broke others. That's what it means when we say health is wealth. It multiplies everything else you do. Some of you might say, "But I don't have time to exercise or cook healthy meals." Let's be honest. You have time, but you're choosing to spend it on distractions. 1 hour of training is less time than you spend scrolling. Preparing a simple, healthy meal takes less energy than binge-watching another series. Health isn't about time. It's about priority. If you don't prioritize it now, you'll be forced to prioritize disease later. So how do you build health as the first wealth? Start with the basics. Move daily. Strength training, running, sports, anything that pushes your body against resistance. Fuel wisely. Eat to perform, not just to please your cravings. Junk food is comfort disguised as poison. Rest properly. Sleep is not laziness. It's strategic recovery. Without it, your body and mind rot from the inside out. Cut poison. Alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, they're marketed as fun, but they're really debt. And debt always demands repayment. Here's the kicker. Nobody claps for you when you train, eat clean, or sleep early. It doesn't trend. But 10 years from now, when your peers are tired, overweight, stressed, and sick, your quiet discipline will speak louder than any applause. The truth is, a strong body is the foundation for a strong life. It gives you credibility before you even speak. It commands respect without you asking. It provides the energy to chase goals that would crush weaker men. And most importantly, it protects your freedom, because without health, you are a prisoner in your own body. So tonight, ask yourself, if your dreams demand a marathon, will your body collapse at the first mile? Or will you have the strength to go the distance? Because you built your health as your first and greatest wealth. Discipline is freedom, and nowhere is that more obvious than in the battle between self-mastery and instant pleasure. Before 30, life bombards you with temptations, the quick thrill, the easy high, the temporary escape. And while everyone else is reaching for the shortcut, the true difference between success and failure is whether you choose mastery over impulse. Let's be clear, instant pleasure isn't just about bad habits like junk food, scrolling, or partying. It's a mindset, a habit of trading tomorrow's rewards for today's comfort. Every time you choose the easy option, you're silently telling yourself, "I'm fine with staying weak." And weakness, like compound interest, grows bigger the longer you ignore it. I once knew a guy who lived for instant gratification. Every paycheck went to nights out, fast food, and quick buys that made him feel good for a moment, but left him broke and restless. When challenges came, bills, stress, rejection, he collapsed because his whole life had been built on avoiding discomfort. His 20s disappeared into a blur of wasted dopamine hits, and by 30, he had nothing solid to stand on. Now contrast him with another young man who lived differently. He practiced saying no. No to unnecessary spending, no to unhealthy food, no to wasted hours. Instead, he trained, saved, studied, and built. His friends mocked him for being boring, but a decade later, he wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. His self-mastery had turned into freedom, financial, physical, and mental. While others chased moments, he had built a life. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people think discipline is prison, but it's the opposite. Discipline frees you from the slavery of cravings, from the chaos of impulses, from the regret of bad choices. A man ruled by desire is not free, he's chained. A man who masters himself is untouchable. Some of you may argue, but life should be enjoyed. And yes, it should. But enjoyment is sweetest when it's earned. Eating clean after hard training, spending money after building wealth, celebrating after real achievement. Those pleasures last. Instant pleasure without effort? It fades before you even realize it, leaving you emptier than before. So how do you build self-mastery? Start small. Delay gratification on purpose. When you want to scroll, read instead. When you want to spend, save. When you want to quit, push a little further. Each small victory strengthens the muscle of discipline. Over time, those small wins stack into an unbreakable identity, someone who does not bow to weakness. Here's a practical exercise. For the next week, pick one instant pleasure you know is draining you. Maybe late-night scrolling, sugar, or impulse spending. Cut it off completely for 7 days. Notice how hard it feels. Then notice how strong you feel at the end. That strength is self-mastery. That strength is freedom. Because here's the truth. The world is full of people enslaved by their cravings, begging for freedom while refusing to master themselves. If you choose self-mastery, you instantly separate yourself from the herd. So tonight, ask yourself, are you the master of your desires or their servant? And if the answer scares you, what will you do about it before another year of your life disappears into easy, empty pleasures? Most people spend their 20s consuming, scrolling through endless feeds, buying what they don't need, watching what adds nothing, and letting their lives be defined by what others produce. But the few who win early in life flip the script. They stop thinking like consumers and start thinking like creators. That shift in mindset changes everything. Consumption is easy. It feels good. It's passive. But here's the truth. Consumers are controlled, while creators are in control. Every app you use, every product you buy, every video you binge, someone created it. They shaped your attention, your habits, your money. If you never move from consumer to creator, you're just fuel for someone else's fire. I knew a young woman who was always online, liking, sharing, commenting, watching. She felt connected, like she was part of everything. But years went by, and she realized she had nothing to show for it except hours of screen time. Her knowledge of trends didn't pay the bills, didn't build skills, didn't move her forward. She had been a spectator in her own life. Now compare her with another person I knew who chose differently. Instead of endlessly consuming, he created. He started small, writing short posts, building projects, sharing ideas, documenting his progress. At first, nobody cared. But he kept creating, kept sharpening his craft, kept producing. Over time, his output became his brand. By 30, he didn't need to beg for attention. People came to him. Why? Because while everyone else was consuming, he was building. This is the power of creation. It multiplies. One piece of work can travel farther than you ever could. One idea, shared, can open doors you didn't know existed. One skill, practiced and displayed, can attract opportunities while others are still scrolling. Consumers wait to be chosen. Creators make themselves impossible to ignore. Of course, some will argue, but not everyone can be a creator. Wrong. You don't have to invent the next big app or write a bestseller. Creation simply means producing value instead of just absorbing it. Writing a blog, launching a side hustle, posting meaningful insights, even building your own fitness transformation. These are acts of creation. They prove you can take input and turn it into output. Here's the danger of staying a consumer. You lose agency. Your tastes are shaped, your opinions fed to you, your choices narrowed by algorithms. You may feel free, but really you're following paths built by others. Creation breaks that spell. It forces you to think, to act, to risk. And risk is where growth lives. So here's your challenge. This week, create one thing every day. Write a short piece, share a useful thought, record a video, build something, no matter how small. At first, it will feel awkward, maybe even pointless. But creation is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And remember, the goal is not likes or instant success. The goal is transformation, from someone who just absorbs life to someone who contributes to it. The consumer asks, "What can I get?" The creator asks, "What can I give?" That difference will define whether you live invisibly or leave a mark. So ask yourself tonight, if tomorrow every platform shut down, would you be remembered for what you consumed or for what you created? Comparison is poison, and nowhere is it more toxic than in your 20s. Social media has turned life into a scoreboard, where everyone flaunts their highlights while hiding their failures. You scroll, you compare, you feel behind. But here's the reality. Comparisons are traps, and the sooner you detach from them, the freer and stronger you'll become. Think about it. You see someone your age driving a luxury car, and you feel like you're failing. You see a friend traveling the world, and you feel stuck. You see someone posting about a new relationship, and you wonder what's wrong with you. But what you don't see are the debts, the arguments, the insecurities, the nights they cry when nobody's watching. You're comparing your behind the scenes with their highlight reel, and that game is rigged for you to lose. I once knew a young man who lived his entire 20s chasing other people's milestones. When his peers got promoted, he jumped jobs. When his friends got married, he rushed into relationships he wasn't ready for. When others bought flashy things, he stretched his credit to match them. By 30, he was exhausted, broke, and directionless. He hadn't built his own path. He had only chased shadows of others. Now let me tell you about someone else. She was the same age, but she ignored the noise. While her friends posted curated photos and staged success, she focused on her craft. She didn't rush to prove anything online. She poured her energy into building skills and savings. For years, nobody noticed. But when her time came, she wasn't scrambling. She was solid. Her quiet, consistent effort became undeniable. And when people finally compared themselves to her, she was miles ahead. This is the truth. Comparison kills gratitude, and without gratitude, ambition rots into envy. When you measure yourself against others, you lose sight of the only comparison that matters: who you were yesterday versus who you are today. Your 20s are not a race against peers. They're a training ground for yourself. Of course, some of you might say, "But competition drives me." Healthy competition can sharpen you, yes, but toxic comparison blinds you. Competing to be better than yesterday builds progress. Competing to look better than someone else builds insecurity. The line is thin, but it's critical. So how do you detach from toxic comparisons? Start here. Audit your feeds. Unfollow accounts that trigger envy more than inspiration. Track your own metrics. Journal your growth, savings, strength, or skills so your scoreboard is internal, not external. Celebrate small wins. Gratitude is the antidote to envy. Each small step forward is proof you're building your own lane. Ask better questions. Instead of, "Why don't I have what they have?" ask, "Am I further than I was last year?" The truth is, envy wastes energy you could use to grow. Every hour you spend comparing is an hour you could spend creating, learning, or building. And by the time you realize this, the people you envied will either be gone from your life, or they'll still be pretending while you've built something real. So ask yourself tonight, are you spending your 20s scrolling through other people's lives, or writing your own story that nobody can copy? We live in the age of distraction. Notifications buzz, feeds refresh endlessly, and every app is designed to steal your focus. And here's the truth. In a world where everyone is distracted, the person who masters digital discipline becomes unstoppable. Focus is the new superpower. And if you can't control your screen will control you. Think about how much of your life leaks away through tiny moments. 5 minutes of scrolling turns into an hour. One quick video becomes 10. By the end of the week, you've lost whole days, not to learning, not to building, but to digital noise. And yet, most people shrug it off, saying, "That's just how life is now." No, that's how failure multiplies. I once knew a man who was brilliant but addicted to his phone. He would sit down to work, but within minutes he was scrolling. Every time his mind felt challenged, he reached for the dopamine hit of a notification. His 20s slipped through his fingers, not because he lacked talent, but because he lacked discipline. He never finished what he started, because his attention was always elsewhere. Now let me tell you about another man. He recognized early that his focus was his most valuable asset. He deleted apps that wasted his time, set strict boundaries for screen use, and trained his mind like a muscle. At first, people mocked him, said he was old-fashioned, too strict, missing out. But while they wasted years scrolling, he built businesses, mastered skills, and cultivated peace of mind. His digital discipline gave him a freedom others didn't even know they had lost. Here's the truth. Your phone is not evil. Technology is not the enemy. But without discipline, they become chains. Every time you grab your phone out of boredom, you reinforce weakness. Every time you silence your phone and focus, you reinforce strength. One makes you a consumer, the other makes you a creator. Maybe you're thinking, "But I need my phone for work." That may be true, but be honest. How much of your screen time is truly work, and how much is wasted? Hiding behind "it's for work" is just an excuse ignorance whispers so you don't have to face the truth. Real work creates results. Mindless scrolling creates regret. So how do you build digital discipline? Start small. Turn off notifications. If it's urgent, they'll call. Set time limits. Decide when you use screens and when you don't. Replace triggers. Every time you reach for your phone out of boredom, do one push-up, write one sentence, or read one page. Track your usage. Awareness alone can shock you into change. Here's the paradox. When you master your digital world, you gain back real life. You notice the silence. You feel time expand. You realize how much of your 20s was slipping away into nothingness. And you discover the rarest power in our age, the ability to focus deeply when everyone else is scattered. Because here's the truth. The future belongs to the focused. Attention is currency, and you can either spend yours building someone else's empire or invest it in building your own. So ask yourself tonight, are you the master of your screen or its servant? And if your phone tracked your true life's work, not just your screen time, would it show years of wasted motion or proof that you had the discipline to build something real? Money is a language, and if you don't learn it early, you'll spend your life misinterpreting the world. Too many people in their 20s think money is just about earning and spending. They treat it like air, something that will always be there. But here's the truth. Financial ignorance is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make, and the bill always arrives later. I once knew a man who treated every paycheck like a party. He spent freely, believing more would always come. Credit cards, loans, buy now, pay later. He swallowed them all. In his 20s, it felt exciting, like he was living large. But when responsibilities came, marriage, children, a mortgage, he was drowning. The money he thought would always flow dried up, and his ignorance chained him to decades of struggle. Now contrast him with another young man. He wasn't rich, but he respected money early. He tracked every dollar, learned about saving, invested small amounts, and avoided debt like poison. His friends mocked him for being cheap, but he wasn't cheap. He was strategic. By 30, he wasn't worried about bills. He was free to chase opportunities because he had a cushion, a foundation. His early literacy gave him choices the others could never afford. Here's the thing. Money isn't just about survival, it's about freedom. If you don't control it, it controls you. If you don't understand it, others will use your ignorance against you. Banks, advertisers, flashy influencers, they all profit from people who never learn the rules. And in your 20s, when habits are formed, you're either writing your financial future or signing away your freedom. Some might argue, but I don't make enough to save or invest. That's a lie poverty whispers. Financial literacy isn't about how much you earn. It's about how you handle what you earn. Even small amounts, managed wisely, teach habits that compound. $1 wasted is practice for wasting 1,000. $1 saved is practice for saving 1,000,000. So what should you do before 30? Start here. Track your money. Know where every dollar goes. Ignorance here is blindness. Avoid debt traps. If you can't pay for it twice, don't buy it once. Build an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses makes you untouchable in a crisis. Invest early. Even small amounts consistently placed in assets compound into freedom. Study money, read books, follow mentors, learn the rules of the game, because if you don't, you're playing blind, and the house always wins. The difference between financial literacy and financial ignorance is the difference between opportunity and slavery. One opens doors, the other closes them, and the longer you wait, the harder it gets. So let me ask you tonight, if tomorrow your paycheck stopped, how long could you stand? A week? A month? A year? The answer reveals not just your finances, but your freedom. And if you don't like that answer, the time to change it is now, before 30, before it's too late. Rejection terrifies most people. They avoid it like poison, running from the word no, as if it will destroy them. But here's the truth. Rejection is not the end of the road. It's the toll you pay to reach success. If you want to separate yourself before 30, you must face rejection without fear. Think about it. Every job worth having, every relationship worth building, every dream worth chasing involves risk, and with risk comes rejection. The ones who fail in their 20s are not the ones who tried and got turned down. It's the ones who never tried at all. Fear of rejection kept them on the sidelines while others were in the game. I once knew a young man who had brilliant ideas but no courage. He wanted to start a business, but he couldn't bear the thought of being told no. So he kept his plans private, waiting for the perfect time. Years slipped by, and by the time he looked up, his window was gone. His fear of rejection had quietly become rejection by life itself. Now compare him to another young man I knew. He pitched ideas that failed. He applied for jobs that turned him down. He asked people out and got embarrassed. But every no sharpened him. He learned, adjusted, grew thicker skin. By the time he reached 30, he had built a career, a network, and a mindset that nothing could break. His fearlessness didn't come from luck. It came from walking through rejection until it lost its power. Here's the paradox. Rejection feels like loss, but it's actually information. Every no teaches you something about timing, about skill, about strategy. The people who use rejection as data keep moving forward. The people who see rejection as death stop moving at all. Of course, some of you might argue, but rejection hurts. Yes, it does. That's why it's powerful. Pain is the teacher growth requires. Every rejection you survive builds resilience that no easy victory could ever give you. Comfort creates fragility. Rejection creates strength. So how do you face rejection without fear? Redefine it. A no isn't a verdict. It's feedback. Normalize it. Make rejection part of your training. Apply, ask, pitch, risk, until hearing no feels ordinary. Detach from approval. Your value isn't defined by someone else's acceptance. Keep moving, don't freeze. Take the lesson, adjust, and try again. Here's the truth. Most people aren't stopped by failure. They're stopped by the fear of hearing no. If you can kill that fear, you unlock doors that timid people will never even approach. So ask yourself tonight, are you living a smaller life just to avoid rejection? And if you are, what greater rejection is that than rejecting your own potential? The world does not wait. It doesn't pause for you to catch your breath, and it doesn't slow down because you're unprepared. The pace of change is ruthless. Technology evolves, industries transform, cultures shift. And here's the harsh truth. If you don't adapt, you will be left behind. Look around. Jobs that once lasted a lifetime now disappear in a decade. Skills that once guaranteed stability are obsolete within years. Entire industries rise and collapse faster than the time it takes most people to get a degree. Those who cling to the past don't just fall behind. They vanish from relevance altogether. I knew a man who refused to adapt. He worked in a comfortable job, mastered one system, and thought it would last forever. When new software came, he ignored it. When new methods arrived, he resisted. At first it seemed fine. He still got his paycheck. But slowly, younger workers who embraced change surpassed him. Eventually, the company restructured, and his outdated skills had no place. His security had been an illusion. Now compare him to another man who embraced adaptation. Every time his field shifted, he treated it as an opportunity. He learned new tools, experimented with new approaches, and stayed curious. Instead of clinging to the way things are, he asked, "Where are things going?" By 30, he wasn't just surviving, he was leading. While others were scrambling to catch up, he was already ahead. Adaptation isn't optional, it's survival. The world doesn't reward those who hold on. It rewards those who evolve. And adaptation isn't about abandoning who you are. It's about updating how you operate. You keep your principles, but shift your tactics. You stay grounded in your values, but flexible in your methods. Of course, some might argue, but change is uncomfortable. Yes, it is. That's the point. Growth never feels comfortable. If you only adapt when it's easy, you're already too late. Painful adaptation today prevents painful irrelevance tomorrow. So how do you cultivate adaptability before 30? Stay a student. Never assume you're finished learning. Experiment often. Try new tools, new methods, new environments. Expect change. Don't be shocked by it. Prepare for it. Detach from comfort. If something feels too safe for too long, you're probably stagnating. Here's the truth. Life will not adjust to your pace. You either evolve with it or fade into the background. The young who adapt become the leaders. The young who resist become the forgotten. So ask yourself tonight, when the next wave of change hits, will you ride it, or will you be buried beneath it? Growth hurts. Comfort feels good. And that's why most people, before they hit 30, choose comfort. But here's the truth. Comfort doesn't stay soft forever. It rots into stagnation. Easy choices today become hard consequences tomorrow. Painful growth now becomes freedom later. I once knew a young man who built his 20s on comfort. He avoided risk, avoided challenge, avoided pain. His life looked pleasant. Steady job, predictable weekends, safe choices. But every year, his fear of discomfort grew stronger, until even small risks terrified him. By 30, he wasn't just stagnant, he was trapped. Comfort had built a cage, and he had locked the door himself. Now compare that with another man who chose growth, even when it hurt. He took on challenges he wasn't ready for, endured failures that humbled him, and trained his body and mind through consistent discomfort. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't glamorous. But every painful step hardened him, sharpened him, and stretched his capacity. By 30, he wasn't fragile like his peers. He was unshakable. His pain had become his strength. Here's the paradox. Growth and comfort are mutually exclusive. You cannot have both. The gym teaches this perfectly. Muscles only grow when they tear. The same is true for your character, your career, your discipline. If you're not hurting a little, you're not growing at all. Some of you might argue, but life is already hard. Shouldn't I at least be comfortable? That's the lie that keeps people weak. Comfort now only delays the pain. It doesn't erase it. The man who avoids discomfort today will face suffering tomorrow, amplified and unavoidable. The man who embraces discomfort today will be prepared when life tests him tomorrow. So how do you choose painful growth over easy stagnation? Seek discomfort on purpose. Train harder, read harder, push yourself into places that intimidate you. Say yes to challenges. If something scares you, it's probably the exact thing you need to do. Track progress, not comfort. Judge your days by how much you stretched, not how easy they felt. Reframe pain. Don't see it as punishment. See it as proof you're alive, growing, and evolving. The truth is, the comfort you worship in your 20s becomes regret in your 30s, but the pain you endure in your 20s becomes power in your 30s. Every uncomfortable choice is an investment in the future version of you. So ask yourself tonight, when you look back at your 20s, will you remember a life of comfort that faded into nothing, or scars that turned into strength? Purpose is not a luxury. It is not something you stumble into at 40 or discover by accident after drifting for decades. Purpose is the foundation that makes everything else matter. And if you don't build it before 30, you risk waking up later with success on paper but emptiness in your soul. Think about it. Without purpose, money feels hollow, success feels fragile, relationships feel shallow. You can achieve everything people applaud, yet still feel lost, because applause is not direction. Purpose is. It gives meaning to the struggle, clarity to your choices, and energy when everything else fails. I once knew a man who lived without purpose in his 20s. He chased money because everyone else did, chased women because his friends did, chased trends because he was afraid of missing out. On the surface, he was always busy, always living. But deep down, he was drifting. When 30 came, he realized he had built nothing solid, nothing meaningful, nothing that truly belonged to him. He had wasted his best decade building for others instead of building himself. Now compare that with someone else I knew. She didn't have all the answers, but she asked the right questions early. What do I stand for? What kind of life do I want? What impact do I want to leave? She explored, tried, failed, and adjusted. By 30, she wasn't rich yet, but she was grounded. Her purpose gave her direction, and that direction gave her resilience. When storms came, she bent but didn't break. She wasn't lost. She was anchored. Here's the truth. Purpose doesn't arrive like lightning. It's built brick by brick. It grows from your values, your struggles, your skills, and your willingness to commit to something bigger than yourself. The mistake most young people make is waiting for purpose to show up, as if it will knock on the door one morning. It won't. You must create it. Of course, some will argue, but I don't know my purpose yet. That's fine. Purpose isn't discovered overnight. It's forged through action. Try things, fail, reflect, adjust. Every step you take teaches you what you are and what you're not. Sitting still teaches you nothing. Drift is the enemy. Movement is the solution. So how do you create purpose before 30? Identify your values. What do you stand for? What matters to you more than comfort? Pursue mastery. Purpose often grows from skills developed with discipline. Serve something bigger. Purpose multiplies when it impacts more than just yourself. Commit. Don't wait for certainty. Purpose requires decision, not perfection. Because here's the final truth. If you don't create purpose, the world will assign you one, and it won't be in your favor. Employers, advertisers, trends, they'll happily use you to fulfill their goals while yours rot away. But if you build purpose early, everything else, money, career, relationships, aligns behind it. So ask yourself tonight, when 30 arrives, will you already be living a life of direction? Or will you be standing in the mirror, asking, "What have I even been doing?" You've just walked through 15 lessons. The mindset shifts that separate success from failure before 30. None of these principles are glamorous. They're not shortcuts, not overnight hacks, not quick fixes. They are foundations. And foundations rarely get applause. But 10 years from now, they're the only thing standing when trends, distractions, and illusions have crumbled. If you take these lessons seriously, discipline over pleasure, purpose over drifting, creation over consumption, you will enter your 30s with strength, clarity, and direction. You'll be the one others look to for guidance, the one who built quietly while the rest wasted time loudly. The outcome is simple. If you live by these mindsets, you won't just survive your 20s. You'll weaponize them. You'll leave behind the fragile need for validation, the fear of rejection, the addiction to comfort, and you'll step into adulthood with power that cannot be faked. The choice is yours. Drift and wake up lost, or build and wake up free. If this message hit you, do something with it. Don't just close the video and forget. Take one principle and act on it today. And before you go, like this video if it sparked something in you. Comment your biggest takeaway. I want to know which part challenged you most. Share this with a friend who needs to hear it before they waste another year. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Your 20s are not for wasting. They're for building. Start now.